Greetings, everybody. I am Lobo, and welcome to Luna. This is episode 215 of my Minecraft survival series, and today we're going to step away from the storage system for a little bit, work on something else, because I told you there's a lot of other projects that are sitting around Luna idle, just waiting to be worked on, right? Today we're going to return to one of our oldest ongoing projects in the city of Luna, or actually just outside of it, our city walls right here. Now, we're not going to get started building these city walls just yet because there's some other stuff we need to do first. Other areas I want to establish, which means other walls that will need to be built. Now, I've been thinking about this for a while now. Thinking about whether or not I want to do this. What I'm thinking is that we could add some additional areas off to the sides of the waterway leading into Luna's waterside district from the ocean out here. And I've gone back and forth because I can see pros and cons to this, right? Number one, we could have some really cool areas, like just off to the sides here that would make the entrance into the waterside district much more impressive. The main con, though, is, why would I want to make more work for myself here? I mean, obviously, since I told you guys about it, my decision was indeed to go ahead and make more work for myself. So, we're going to start by getting an idea of how this is going to look. We're going to start by starting on these walls and just making a big old circle coming off of them and just get a feel for how that feels, and then we might continue from there. I don't know. This is just planning time. I think this is probably a pretty good size for each of our circles. I feel like this is probably big enough where we could actually do something cool with it, but not too big that it's going to be obstructive, right? Because we don't really want jutting too far out into the waterway. I think it juts out just far enough that we can give some depth and some interest to this entrance, but not have it be too much, you know? So let's go ahead and get the outlines of our circles in here, and then we'll see what we actually think of it. And there is a possibility we extend this even further. There is always that possibility. I mean, whatever's worth doing is worth overdoing, right? All right. Let's go ahead and see what we think of this. Wow, the hidden Mickey is not so hidden. It won't be a hidden Mickey. It's, I'm going to extend this a little bit further, I think. We're going to continue on with what I planned on doing. I know it's hard for you guys to understand what I'm trying to do here because I'm not going to share with you what I'm envisioning just in case I don't end up doing it. But I see some potential here. Okay, well, I've done some measurements and kind of located where we could place 4 additional circles along the waterway leading into Luna. And they kind of go just straight diagonally from each of these larger circles. So I think it would be pretty easy to connect them together because they're not going to actually be touching. But having them go out at a straight diagonal will have the effect of kind of narrowing our waterway in here. Like it won't open up like it currently does, but it'll kind of maintain a constant width, consistent with this opening right here, which should be big enough for any ships that we build to pass through, right? I think this is also going to step down in height as it makes its way out here, kind of down to about this height right here. Maybe a little bit taller, I don't really know yet. Hello! Okay, well, that was not really what I wanted to do. But that will have the effect of just making this area a whole lot more interesting, having a lot more variation in our entrance right here. It also means I will have to tear out less land over here, which is obviously a good thing, making less work for myself by making more work for myself. It also brings us a lot closer to Wharf, so we can clearly see that. I like the idea of just having the areas around Luna that we build up kind of more visible. I think that's always a good thing. So that's another tally mark in the pros column. You know what? I think I've talked myself into it. I think we are going to roll with this. Yeah. I had to build this out a little bit to meet up with whatever we're building over here, but it's fine. It's fine. Minor changes. Yeah, we're going to roll with it. So at this point, let's go ahead and call Dee Dee on over here. Put on a little bit of music. Build some circle platforms that will house future stuff. Welcome back, everybody. We have now expanded Luna's outer districts. For some reason, I don't know why I do this to myself. I just make more and more work for myself in the future, but at least in this case, I do think it's going to be worth it. I think it's going to make entering Luna from the waterside entrance so much more epic and extravagant, and I don't know. I'm really looking forward to what this is eventually going to look like in, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, who knows at this point. We got a lot of work to do before we can actually build these up. Like, we got walls to build, we've got mountains to tear down before we can build those walls, we've got seas to tear out after we tear out the mountains. There's just a lot to do. You know, a lot to do, but at least we do have stuff to do. With all the ideas floating around in my head, like, there's always going to be something to do here in Luna, right? But as I said at the start of today's video, I do want to go ahead and focus on walls. And while we're not going to be building up the walls leading up to those platforms yet, because as I said, there's a lot to do before we get to that point, I do want to go ahead and mark out where the walls need to start. So before we move on to any of the other areas in Luna we're going to touch on today, I do want to go ahead and drop gravel around the perimeter. That way we can see where our walls need to be once we actually get around to building them. It'll also help us determine what we have to clear out and what we can let stay. So we know this entire mountain right here has to go. That's going to be taken out completely, but everything under here, everything inside the gravel lines, this can all stay. There we go. We have one side now taken care of. Gravel dropped along the entire perimeter. Now let's move on to the other side. And that just about does it for this side. So, I mean, nothing too exciting for you guys. But I don't know, dropping gravel just brings me so much joy. And look, we also made like some nice shaded sleeping areas for our foxes. Excellent, but unintended side effect. But now that we've got this all figured out, I want to start thinking about our walls, which I've said many times in this episode. It's all about the walls. Now, these walls that we have here, or will have here, will kind of impede travel throughout some of Luna, right? Like, we'll have entrances into these outer districts from the waterside district. That's all well and good, but what if we wanted to get, say, from the farm district over here to the outer district? What if we lived over here by the windmill, you know? To get to the outer districts, we would have to go all the way around here into the waterside district, all the way through the waterside district, just to get from here to here, right? And that's not very convenient. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So what I'm thinking we could possibly do is grant access to the outer districts from the farm district and to the other outer district from another place in Luna that we'll talk about in a little bit. So I think maybe a doorway, a gateway, some kind of way is in order that would, you know, just make travel for our villagers, for our citizens, a little bit easier, right? So, I mean, even though this is technically a completed section of wall, or was a technically completed section of wall, you know, nothing in Luna is ever actually complete. Because we'll always be making changes, we'll always be making additions, sometimes subtractions. But I think we could easily continue this this little pathway, like on this way, into the outer districts. I think that would actually be a pretty good idea. So let's go ahead and open this up a little bit and just see what we can manage to do here. So basically, we're probably going to have to go down at a slight diagonal, so that way we can contain the opening in between these pillars right here. And we'll have to go at a slight diagonal because the opening between these pillars is a little bit offset. But I don't think that's a bad thing. That'll actually make it more interesting, if anything, right? So let's go ahead and start by getting the pathway in and just make sure this doesn't feel too awkward as we transition from area to area. I think this will be fine, though. Yeah, that works. Now, as far as building out these gateways, we're going to do something very similar to the other gateways we have built into the city walls in Luna. Oh my goodness. But this is going to be built at a slight diagonal, so there is a potential it could look kind of awkward, but I think that's okay. That's just fine. Because then it's just going to blend in with all the other awkward stuff we've built here in Luna, right? So let's go ahead and see what we think of it. I think it could probably stand to be a little taller, actually. We'll probably also get some little redstone lamps in here just to kind of draw your attention to this area, let you know that there's an entrance over here. I think that might be kind of cool. I think stairs over and under the lamps might be kind of cool, but they need to be polished andesite, not stone brick. So that's something we'll take care of as well. But yeah, I can live with that. I can live with that. One thing I do want to do, though, is go ahead and fix up the walls over here on this side because they're a little offset because of how the land was here before we decided to change it. So we need to go ahead and raise this bottom section up to be on the same level as, you know, all this. So let me go ahead and take care of this real quick, and I will be right back with you. So, I mean, just to maintain some consistency, like, I think I'm just going to knock out some of the blocks at the bottom portion of the wall. I'm not going to change up, like, the innards of the wall, but we do want to keep this consistent, right? We do want light to continue to show through these bottom areas, so what we're probably going to have to do is just kind of knock out the bottom row of blocks here. That way we can have our lights kind of shining through the cobblestone walls we'll place in front of them, and that should work. So jumping ahead here with a little bit more progress. Yeah, I can live with that. I can live with that. So we got this side done. We have the pathway through done. We have this side more or less done with the exception of the andesite stairs. I will still need to make up a few more of those. I keep forgetting. But yeah, I can live with this. I mean, it kind of looks like an afterthought, but it is an afterthought, you know? So it doesn't have to look like it's, you know, part of the grand design of Luna or anything like that. Let me go ahead and make a little pathway up here. Probably do some other little minor stuff. And I'll be back with you guys in a few. As far as the pathway design we're going to go with for this, it's going to be the same pathway, at least on this side, on the farm district side, as we've used throughout the rest of the farm district. I think that should just about do it. Shush, zombie! I think that should just about do it. So let's see how this feels. So we'll be walking up here. Hey, puppers. We're walking up here towards the farm district council office, and we just make our left, and that easily takes us through here. Pathway feels a little awkward, doesn't it? I don't know. I'll have another look at it in a little bit. But we'll just make our way through here, and then that's that. Oh my goodness. Why did it take me so long to get these in here? Ridiculous. Now we're also going to want easier access to the outer districts on this side of Luna as well. But not necessarily from Wolfen's Labs, because Wolfen's Labs is a closed-off area. We're not going to have access to anything out here from Wolfen's Labs. But from the business district, that's another story. So I'm thinking over here at the garden center, we could probably afford to maybe tunnel our way through the ground, through the wall, and into the outer district where there may or may not be a future addition to the Luna Garden Center. I don't know. I'm not going to confirm or deny that yet, but I think this would probably be a good spot to just go ahead and make our way through regardless of what we decide to do with that. Y'all just can't help yourselves, can you? You just want to get trapped all the time, huh? You know what? That's fine. Not fine. Get out. Go. Come on, man. This is not the place where you don't want to be stuck here for eternity, do you? Of course you don't. Go on. Get. That's fine. I'll help you. I'm here to help. Forcefully if need be. There, isn't that much better? Now, before we can make our path from Luna's business district out to Luna's outer district on this side, we are going to have to kind of clean this area up a little bit, reroute the zombie villager transportation system here, since where it's currently sitting, it is kind of in the way, but that's no big deal. So if we were to burrow our way straight through, let's go ahead and see where exactly this takes us. Okay, yeah, we can work with that. There's going to be a slight curve in our pathway, but that's going to lead us right out through here. We can center our entrance/exit on this side, right on this this little area right here. Yeah, we can make this work. Now, as far as the pathway goes through our little tunnel, we're going to probably do something fairly similar to what we did up here, where we transition from the stone pathway of the road to the pathway of the garden center, right? So we'll just do the same kind of transition as we move down into the little passage here. So pathway is now in. Let's just go ahead and walk through quickly, see how it feels. I like it. Nice, easy transitions. So next step, as far as this whole thing right here goes, is to, I guess, enclose it. Now, because we want to give the impression that we're burrowing through a thick wall, we're going to place a cobblestone wall like a block further back than where our actual wall is going to be, because the wall that we're going to put up in front of that is probably going to have a fair amount of holes in it. So we just want everything to look solid. Next step, though, is to actually get this thing shaped out, because having this be a square passage is boring. So we'll just place some blocks around here, just kind of, you know, rough it up a little bit. Then we add some of our walls, some of our stairs, and kind of just bury up the blocks and shapes and make sure everything doesn't look so boring. Same thing applies to our ceiling, and that does kind of give the impression that we kind of burrowed a hole through this massive wall here, doesn't it? Kind of gives the wall the impression of some thickness. Now, because it does look like we burrowed a hole through a wall, I don't want to give the impression that this thing is going to come crumbling down on us. So we'll go ahead and add some supports in here, some little wooden supports, which add a little bit of detail to it. Kind of also break up the monotony of just having stone here. I think something like that definitely helps. Then as far as the exterior gateway goes, we can do something like this, where we could have like kind of a gateway in here that looks like it could be lowered in case of emergency, right? In fact, if we're going to do that, maybe it would be probably a good idea to have something that this thing could slot into, like some droppers down here, which we've done elsewhere in Luna. I think that could definitely help kind of give the impression that this does what we intended to do. So we'll go like this, and I think that'll work. You know, those little details, they make the biggest difference. So I am pretty happy with what we've got going on here now. We have a little path that goes out to the outer districts, both from the farm district and from over here in the business district. Now, I did say I wanted to work on our walls, right? And I have been working up to this. I have been preparing myself mentally for the work on the walls that we are about to do here. And obviously, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We've made some changes to Luna that have kind of made some of the walls look a little awkward. We will have to fix that today. We'll have to build up some walls, and, you know, it would make sense. You know, I know what you're thinking. It would make sense to work on the walls on the newest platforms that we just built in here today, because those were the focus of the early part of the video. But as I explained, there's so many reasons why I'm not going to get into these right now. We need to deepen the seas. We need to carve away the land. We need to carve away massive amounts of land before we can even begin to think about these very outer walls, right? But I think what we're going to do today is not focus on those and focus instead on walls that should have been built a long time ago, to be honest with you. These walls that are going to be surrounding Wolfen's laboratory. The final walls of the inner districts of Luna, with the exceptions of the areas that we're still working on, right? So I think today, we're finally going to get around to this. So at this point, let's go ahead and call Dee Dee on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here. Welcome back, everybody. We've got walls. Well, we got some walls. We don't have all the walls, but we got some walls. We've got the outer walls of the Wolfen's Laboratory District finally in place. The inside walls are going to look a little bit different, so I'm not going to work on them yet. But we'll go ahead and fly around Luna and just see our completed walls. You will notice there's a lot of inconsistencies in these walls. And before you think I made a mistake, that was an intentional choice, just because those inconsistencies, those imperfections, just make things more interesting to look at, in my opinion, and I do prefer for things to just be generally less than perfect. I don't know, that just appeals to me. You guys know me by now, you know this about me by now, we've talked about this before. But big progress today, and now the only walls remaining on the insides of Luna, at least, are the walls surrounding the Waterside District, which is, of course, the area that we're currently focusing on, so those will get done eventually. But man, this took a long time. This took so long, in fact, that I am pretty much out of time for filming this episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to hit that little thumbs up button. That would mean a whole lot to me. And if you want to see more, please remember to subscribe. But as always, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, I am Lobo, and I will see you guys later.